My name is Dr. Camilla Torres, 33, an oncologist, and I just ruined a charity event.
Why?
Because I couldn't stand by while my sister-in-law, Hannah, scammed my family with fake cancer documents to steal thousands of dollars in donations. I've always prided myself on staying calm and composed, thanks to 7 years in oncology, but tonight, standing in the Grand Metro Hotel ballroom, I'm shaking as I hold proof of Hannah's lies in my hands. It all started 3 months ago at a family dinner. Hannah arrived, looking unusually quiet and dressed down. "I have something to tell everyone," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer." The room erupted in shock and tears. My mother-in-law, Lila, cried hysterically while my husband, Robert, squeezed my hand for comfort. But something didn't feel right to me. "What hospital are you going to?" I asked carefully. "Memorial West," she said, avoiding eye contact. "Dr. Thomas is my oncologist." I nodded, but red flags popped up. Dr. Thomas specializes in lymphoma, not ovarian cancer. Still, I kept my doubts to myself. In the following weeks, Hannah's cancer became the family's focus. Lila dropped everything to drive her to appointments. My father-in-law dipped into his retirement savings to cover medical bills. Robert spent hours researching treatments. Then came the charity event. "We'll organize a fundraiser to help Hannah," Lila said. "Camilla, your hospital connections could make it a huge success." As Hannah weakly protested, I noticed her new designer purse and flawless hair, odd for someone supposedly undergoing aggressive chemo. Her symptoms didn't add up. I started investigating. Memorial West had no record of her as a patient. When she left her medical file at Lila's house, I couldn't resist looking. It was a sloppy forgery, wrong letterhead, incorrect medical jargon, and dates that didn't match. Hannah was faking cancer. I agonized over what to do. Exposing her would break the family, but letting her scam everyone felt wrong. Tonight, at the fundraiser with over 200 people, including my colleagues, I had no choice. Hannah worked the room in an expensive dress, accepting hugs and sympathy. Meanwhile, I held the documents in my trembling hands. "Camilla, are you okay?" Robert asked, noticing my silence. "I need to show you something," I said, handing him the proof. His face went pale as I explained. Before he could react, Hannah took the stage. "Thank you all for your support," she said. "It means everything as I fight this battle." Something snapped inside me. I couldn't let her lie go on, not as a doctor, not as a family member. "Hannah," I said, stepping forward as the room went quiet. "We need to talk about these medical records." Her face froze, panic flashing in her eyes. And that's when everything fell apart. The sound of Hannah's champagne glass shattering on the marble floor silenced the room. Her face, carefully painted to appear sickly and frail, went pale. "Camilla," she hissed, her jaw tight. "This is neither the time nor the place." "Oh, I think it's exactly the time," I replied, my voice calm despite my pounding heart. "People deserve to know the truth before donating to a fake cancer fund." The crowd murmured, confusion spreading like wildfire. Lila, my mother-in-law, rushed between us, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "Camilla, how dare you? Hannah is fighting for her life." "No, Lila, she's not," I said, raising the documents for everyone to see. "These medical records are forged." "I have proof." Hannah let out a forced laugh. "This is ridiculous. You're just jealous of the attention I'm getting." But her eyes flicked to the nearest exit. Turning to the crowd, I addressed them directly. "Dr. Thomas's name is on these documents as Hannah's oncologist. He specializes in lymphoma, not ovarian cancer, and hasn't treated gynecological cases in years. Dr. Thomas is here tonight. Perhaps he can clarify." Head swiveled toward Dr. Thomas, who slowly stood, his face a mask of confusion. "I've never treated anyone named Hannah Torres," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Hannah's face twisted in fury as her web of lies unraveled. "You!" she screamed, lunging at me. Her hand connected with my cheek in a slap that burned and sent me stumbling back. "You've ruined everything." Robert grabbed her arms to stop her. Hannah, stop. He turned to me, his voice shaking. Camilla, is this true? I pulled out more documents from my folder, my hands steady despite the chaos. The lab results don't match the treatment timeline, I said. The hospital letterhead is outdated. Memorial West hasn't treated Hannah. She's never been a patient there. Lila's face crumpled in confusion. No. I drove her to chemotherapy myself. I saw her go in. Did you ever go inside with her, Lila? Did you meet her doctors? Lila's eyes widened as realization hit. She turned to Hannah, her voice trembling. Hannah, tell me this isn't true. Hannah's mask shattered. You don't understand, she cried, tears streaming down her face. I've been a failure my whole life. Perfect, Camilla, the doctor, while I can't even keep a retail job. Everyone always looks down on me. So, you lied about cancer? Robert's voice was hollow, disbelief etched in his face. You let mom and dad spend their retirement savings? You took money from strangers, from people who trusted you. I was going to pay it back. Hannah sobbed. Once I raised enough money. From people who thought you were dying? I interrupted, my composure slipping. Do you know how many real cancer patients struggle to afford treatment? How many families give up everything for a chance to survive? And you took advantage of that. Of them? The hotel manager approached, phone in hand. The police are on their way, he said grimly. This is fraud. Hannah collapsed to the floor, her cries turning desperate. Daddy, please, she begged my father-in-law, who stood frozen, his face pale and lifeless. Don't let them take me away. But it was too late. The damage was done. When the police arrived, they handcuffed Hannah as the guests looked on, some whispering, others recording on their phones. Lila sobbed into Robert's shoulder. My father-in-law stared blankly, the reality of his drained savings sinking in. Dr. Thomas touched my shoulder gently. You did the right thing, he said. Fraud like this hurts real patients. It makes people question legitimate causes. I nodded, but my chest felt heavy. As Hannah was led away, she glared at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, she spat. You'll regret this, Camilla. I promise you. I looked around at my shattered family and whispered to myself, I already do. Because sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel like a victory. It just feels like loss. I stared at my phone screen. 15 missed calls from Lila, a dozen texts from family, and one threatening email from Hannah's lawyer. It had been 2 weeks since the fundraiser, and the fallout felt endless. The local news ran the story. Doctor exposes sister-in-law's cancer scam at charity event. A video of Hannah slapping me had gone viral on social media. Even my hospital called me in for a meeting. Luckily, they supported my actions. You did the right thing, Robert said, wrapping his arms around me as I sat at the kitchen table. But did it have to be so public? I whispered. Maybe I should have confronted her privately. She would have just found another way to scam people, he said, shaking his head. I knew he was right, but it didn't make it any easier. Hannah had managed to collect over $80,000 before the fundraiser. My father-in-law's retirement savings were wiped out. Lila even took out a second mortgage on their house. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Lila. Please come over. We need to talk. Robert squeezed my shoulder. You should go. She's been trying to reach you for days. An hour later, I was sitting in Lila's living room. It was the same place where Hannah had announced her fake diagnosis. Family photos lined the walls, including ones from Hannah's fabricated cancer journey that Lila had probably posted on social media. I owe you an apology, Lila said quietly, her hands shaking as she held her coffee cup. I should have listened to you earlier. I should have asked more questions. Lila, you believed your daughter. Any mother would, I replied gently. But I'm a mother to Robert too, she said, her voice breaking. And I treated you, his wife, terribly these past 2 weeks. I blamed you for exposing the truth instead of blaming Hannah for lying. Tears filled my eyes. I never wanted to hurt the family. You protected us, she said firmly. If that fundraiser had gone through, if more people had donated, things would be so much worse. Hannah is now facing multiple fraud charges. The detective uncovered evidence of 2 other scams she pulled in different cities. She's done this before. Have you heard from her? I asked. Lila nodded sadly. She's claiming mental illness. Her lawyer says she'll likely serve time, but it could be in a minimum security facility. And the money's gone, Lila said, wiping her eyes. She spent it all, shopping sprees, vacations, gambling. We'll be paying off debts for years. But at least we know the truth now. My phone buzzed again. It was a text from Dr. Thomas. The hospital board approved your proposal. The Hannah Torres case inspired them to start a fund for verified cancer patients in need. I showed the message to Lila. For the first time in weeks, she smiled. You turned something terrible into something good, she said, reaching for my hand. That's what family does. That night, as Robert and I got ready for bed, he asked, any regrets? I thought about Hannah's threats, the family tension, and the media frenzy. Then I thought about Lila's forgiveness, the new hospital fund, and the truth finally coming out. No, I said honestly. Sometimes the right thing hurts, but it's still right. He kissed my forehead. That's why I love you. You always fight for what's right, no matter the cost. As I drifted to sleep, I realized Hannah's lies had torn through our family like a storm, but the foundation was still standing. It was different now, damaged but stronger where it had been rebuilt. Sometimes it takes a storm to remind you what's worth saving. My phone lit up with one last text from Lila. Family dinner this Sunday. No drama this time, I promise. I smiled and typed back. I'll be there. Because that's the thing about real family. It weathers the storms, faces the truth, and always finds its way back home.